Welcome back. Pardon me, my computer is slow today. Welcome back. 19th Element, California Radio. World going crazy, world on fire, world at war. And I'm about to introduce to you Dr. Alim Muhammad with the 19th Element. Dr. Alim.
Assalamu alaikum, Sister Amira.
Walaikum assalam. And I forget to say my name every week.
And
until you say it, that's when I think about it.
And so I'm your host, Dr. Alim, assisted by Sister Amira Bey. And this is the 19th Element. Here we are again 1 week later, 1 week deeper into the new year, 2026. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, today is the first anniversary of the second inauguration of Donald Trump as President of the United States. So how do you feel after 1 year, one more year of Donald Trump? What state is the world in after 1 year of Donald Trump's administration? And so this is the 19th Element. This is the second half of the Survival Show. The first half is called the Your Immunity Project. And that comes at you on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Zoom and Facebook and YouTube. And that's all about public health issues, the vaccines, you know, the mandates, the COVID-19 pandemic, and all the other threats of that nature. But on Wednesdays, the second half of the Survival Show, the 19th Element is all about geopolitics, geostrategic issues, war and peace issues, economic issues, you know, what's really going on in the world. And there's a whole lot going on in the world. And for the last 2 months or so, we haven't had to change our theme very much. A world at war, a world gone crazy, a world gone broke. And I say now, a world gone berserk, which is one stage further than just being crazy. So Sister Amira, let's take a look at our images. We have quite a few. They're in no particular order. Just like the world doesn't seem to be in any particular order. I thought there was supposed to be an international rules-based order. Those rules seem to be have been thrown out the window. Where's the UN in all of this? Where's all of the good people in all of this? Where's the Pope in all of these things going on? Where's the religious leaders in all this taking place? And so it really is a world at war. It may be the war of Armageddon that so many are concerned about. Now, the best definition I ever heard for the war of Armageddon was given by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He said the war of Armageddon is the war for the minds of men. But the stakes of that war are the lives of men. And so we certainly are witnessing that, where propaganda is all over the place. Lies on top of lies, heaped on top of lies, trying to control men. Why do people lie in the first place? If somebody's lying to you, why are they lying to you? You could say to cover up something, to escape punishment. But these are powerful people lying to those who are less powerful. So one reason for lying is to control people, to control other people, control their behavior by giving them false information for them to make decisions by. and by making decisions based on false information, based on lies, falsehoods, then you can get people to make wrong decisions that even will even ill affect themselves. Now here's a lie. Medical, quote, experts are, quote, baffled by the uptick in respiratory ailments in recent years. So, I mean, you can tell this is a lie. How could experts be baffled by 20 years of nonstop spraying of aerosol material, or I should say aerosolized material, into the troposphere above civilian areas? And who exactly are these experts that are so baffled? And if they're so baffled by such obvious things going on, then I don't think they deserve the title experts. You're more expert than they are. Next image, please. And of course, if you've been a regular viewer of the Your Immunity Project, we spent a lot of time last night talking about the contents of chemtrails. This is chemical, biological, radiological warfare. We talked about the quaternary weapon system developed by the Pentagon through DARPA that's being used against the civilian population of America. And the private contractors being paid by Israel to attack the civilian population of America. Look at this. United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement officers, that's ICE, are trained by the Israeli Defense Forces, the IDF. Let that sink in. Now, it's not just ICE, it's not just the ICE enforcement officers trained by Israel, trained by the IDF, in some instances commanded by the IDF. There are Israeli Defense Force officers on the ground in America, rounding up American citizens or alleged illegal migrants, incarcerating them, deporting them without due process, committing violent acts against them or anyone who resists. So when you take a look at what's taking place, say in Minneapolis, where 80,000 Somalis, Black Africans, rounded up by ICE, trained by the IDF, you would think that you were in Gaza. And it makes you wonder what's really going on. You rounding up 80,000 Somalis in Minneapolis, and then at the same time fomenting civil war in Somalia. Donald Trump has bombed the nation of Somalia every day since he's been in office, and is supporting a breakaway region of Somalia called Somaliland that recently was recognized by Israel and recognized Israel, and people say they intend to deport the Palestinians from Gaza into Somaliland. Could it be that they are holding 80,000 Somalis in Minneapolis ransom? Have they kidnapped 80,000 Somalis in Minneapolis and holding them for ransom to force Somalia to accept Palestinian refugees, or not really refugees, but those forced out of Gaza and Palestine? What happened to the 80,000 Somalis that were rounded up by ICE, trained by the IDF? Whose policy is really being enforced? What's the difference between being in Gaza and being in Minneapolis? Next image, please. Now here's something very important, a graphic that shows you what it's all about. Some say that every war fought in the 20th century was about oil. Well, it looks like the 21st century is getting started in the same way. If you look at this graphic, you'll see where all the oil is in the world. The biggest oil reserves are in Venezuela. Huge oil reserves in Iran, Saudi Arabia. and the UAE and Dubai, all the Middle Eastern countries, Iraq. That about sums it up. With the addition of Canada and Russia, hey, that's pretty much all the oil there is. So you can see what the move is all about in the capture of Maduro and the invasion of Venezuela and taking control or attempting to take control of Venezuelan oil. That would mean that America, who already controls Saudi Arabia, already controls the Arab Emirates, seeking to overthrow Iran like they used to have control in Iran with the Shah, then that would mean that America would have control over probably about 80% of the world's oil supply and could cut off energy to China and other rivals and control the flow of petroleum to see who gets what. Like, for example, they recently cut off all of the oil going into Cuba. Next image, please. So you see what it's all about. Now somebody put this up as a cartoon. You want to save the planet? Hey, you have to get rid of what's destroying the planet. And so the biggest troublemaker on the planet is Israel. You could have peace in the Middle East if you got rid of Israel. It used to be a question mark. Does Israel have a right to exist? Well, if she ever did, not anymore. Not anymore, not after all this. Not after what the world has seen and witnessed. I think if she ever had the right to exist, it's been forfeited. Next image, please. It was never a good idea in the first place to have an exclusively Jewish state. How is that anything but apartheid, dressed up in a religious garment? That's apartheid. That's segregation. That's Jim Crow. That's discrimination. That's white supremacy by any other name, because the people who are running Israel, they're not even Semitic people. They're Aryan white people from the Caucasus Mountains of Europe, the Ashkenazis, the Khazars. Next image, please. Yeah, the Khazars. And see what's going on. And now Khazaria, that's the name of the Khazar Empire in ancient times. And that's where the Ashkenazi Jews come from. These were a pagan, atheistic people who converted to Judaism relatively recently to get out of trouble with the Christians who were fighting them on one side and the Muslims who were fighting them on the other side. So they decided to become Jews. And now they're known as the Ashkenazi Jews. And these are the people who migrated into Israel and are trying to expel the true owners of Palestine, the Palestinians. But now this is not a new kind of a thing. There's an age-old battle between the Khazarians, now called Ukraine, the Khazarian mafia, and true Christianity. In other words, Russian Orthodox Christianity, Eastern Orthodox Christianity. So they're not compatible, because you have a criminal mafia running a country called Ukraine that attracts criminals from all over the world, just like Israel. It's a safe zone for any type of criminal. As long as you're a Jewish criminal, you can have sanctuary in Israel, no matter what your crimes are. You cannot be extradited. And so these criminal people who developed criminal organizations that became criminal nations, they have always been at enmity with true Christianity. And they have always persecuted Christians. They are crucifying Christians right now in Ukraine, burning them alive, crucifying them on crosses. Same thing in Syria. Those so-called ISIS people, Jelani, that was feted at the White House. Trump seemed to have some kind of a sexual attraction to the head of ISIS, who's now the president of Syria. And what are they doing in Syria? They're cutting off the heads of Christians. They're cutting off the heads of anybody that does not agree with their narrow interpretation of so-called Islam. Next image, please. So these people have always been troublemakers. There's nothing new. Ukraine used chemical weapons near Ugladar. Well, they used biological weapons. Don't forget the Pentagon, during the Obama administration, overthrew the democratically elected government in Ukraine. They had a democratic government that was getting along with Russia, getting along with everybody. And then Obama and Hillary Clinton overthrew that government, installed a puppet, and started to arm it for an attack against Russia. And as a part of that process, not only did they deliver all kinds of weapons, missiles, and tanks, making Ukraine the strongest army in Europe, but they also built bioweapons laboratories, chemical weapons laboratories. And so a part of what's going on over there in Ukraine is the use of these biological and chemical weapons that were developed in Ukraine. And guess where else these biological weapons and chemical weapons are showing up? They're showing up over this, in the skies of America, over the citizens of America, in chemtrails coming from Ukraine. This has been the source of trouble for centuries. Next image, please. Not just now. These people have always caused trouble. See, now this is a part of history that's little known. And this is a big part of what we hear about every day, sanctions. Sanctions against Venezuela, sanctions against Iran, sanctions against China, sanctions against the EU, sanctions against this country, sanctions and secondary sanctions, sanctions on individuals. And we get so used to this that we don't understand that, number one, imposing sanctions on a nation is an act of war. When you impose sanctions on a nation, that is an act of war against that nation. Sanctions are a crime against humanity. Anytime you impose sanctions on a nation, you are actually injuring the poor, the least able part of that society. You're injuring the people. You're not hurting the government. You're hurting the people. It's a crime against humanity to impose sanctions. It's an act of war. And most of the wars in the 20th century, like the Second World War, why did Japan feel the need to attack Pearl Harbor? Because of sanctions that America put against Japan, interfering with her legitimate trade. Even though Japan was doing some terrible things in the world, that's true. But yet, what was intolerable to Japan was, you're interfering with our trade. You're putting trade sanctions on us. And since there's nothing we can do about it to stop you, we're going to attack you and make you pay a price for putting sanctions on us. Well, now, what about these sanctions and tariffs that Trump is imposing on all of these countries? Well, these are acts of war. These are acts of war. Another part of the history was, how did World War II get started? What got Germany so riled up that they became the monster that they became in World War II? How did the Nazis rise to power in Germany? You know, what caused the discontent in Germany to the degree that they became that radical and so violent and fostered the World War II that everybody knows about? It was because before Hitler rose to power, the Jewish people around the world declared war on Germany. They declared war on Germany. They put sanctions against Germany. And because the Jews controlled the banks around the world, and a lot of the merchants around the world were Jewish, and a lot of the insurance and all of the financial system in the world at that time, you know, was at least partly in Jewish hands. When they declared war against Germany, declared sanctions against Germany, that really hurt Germany. Next image, please. Germany was still reeling from World War I. And then in the midst of trying to recover from World War I and the unfair agreement that ended the armistice that ended World War I, Adolf Hitler ended up in power. And look what Time magazine thought of Adolf Hitler, I believe in 1933. They named him Man of the Year because he was bringing Germany up from the dregs of World War I and making it a prosperous industrial country again. Next image, please. So they named him Man of the Year, Time Magazine. See, but this is what was going on. This was the headline from the Daily Express. Judea declares war on Germany. Jews of all the world unite in action. And so they took concerted action against Germany, sanctioning everything that Germany did. Every German official, every German business, every German bank, every German of any influence whatsoever was sanctioned. And that's what drove Germany to war. They weren't trying to go to war. They were trying to industrialize and build up their economy until they found out that they couldn't do it because they were being strangled. Well, don't you see the same pattern is taking place? They're trying to strangle Russia with sanctions, trying to strangle Iran with sanctions, strangle Cuba, strangle Venezuela, strangle China with sanctions, even threatening allies. We'll sanction you if you trade with Venezuela. We'll sanction you if you trade with Iran. Will sanctions lead to war? Next image, please. So here was a big rally at Madison Square Garden, 40,000 Jews roaring against Germany, demanding to take action against Hitler. Next image, please. America didn't want to go to war against Germany. Hitler was Man of the Year. They admired Hitler and what he was doing economically. And actually what Hitler was doing, he was following in the footsteps of Bismarck, and Bismarck was following in the footsteps of Abraham Lincoln. Now, so what's going on today? Trump put this out. He put out a graphic today of him planting a U.S. flag on Greenland. Greenland. So you see what the agenda is: conquest. While he has Europe distracted with Russia. Look how America played Russia. Pardon me, they played the Russian card. But look how America played Europe. Turned Russia into the boogeyman. But here Russia is minding its own business, not doing anything but trading like they should, trying to be a good neighbor with everybody, minding their own business. And so America, with propaganda, turns Russia and Vladimir Putin into the boogeyman. Got Europe shaking in their boots that Russia's going to invade us. And that's why we have to supply Ukraine with countless amounts of money, countless numbers of weapons and arms, and we got to get prepared for Russia, because Russia's going to invade Sweden, Russia's going to invade Norway, Russia's going to invade the Baltic states, Russia's going to invade Germany, when all the time it was America getting ready to invade. Look at this. Here they got Europe scared of Russia, that Russia's going to take over, and look who's taking over. Now you thought that's a slick move. If you ask me, that's a slick move. Next image, please. I mean, Trump is slick, man. Look at this. He deployed troops already. Now Norway and Denmark and the NATO, they have about 12 troops on the ground in Greenland. That's all they could muster. I think Denmark legally, supposedly owns Greenland. They can only muster like 6 troops. Trump was mocking them, saying you only got 2 dog sleds to protect the whole country. So then Trump flew in some paratroopers, and they taken over. Of course, America has had military bases in Greenland since 1951. There's nothing new. They've always had control of Greenland. They just put up the pretense that Denmark was in control. Next image, please. But now Trump wants them to pay up. Now, haven't you noticed that the Epstein files have gone away? Remember? Just before Christmas, everybody was talking about the Epstein files and when are they going to be released? And Trump's name is all over them. And then what? He created all of the distractions, so you haven't even thought about the Epstein files and what might be in them. Well, somebody found a picture that was in the Epstein files, and the Department of Justice deleted it right away. They didn't want you to see this picture with Trump and this little girl. I guess he told her a funny story, or maybe he's tickling her. I don't know what. Next image, please. Yeah, Trump's 1.4 billion payday. See, I ask you, how do you feel after 1 year of a new Trump administration? How do you think he's doing? Well, from his point of view, he's doing great. According to certain calculations, he's earned $1.4 billion for himself in 1 year. And some say all the money that they took from Venezuela, you know where that money is? It's on deposit in Qatar, in a bank. No, not Qatar, but in Dubai. In Dubai, Trump got a bank account, a private bank account. The money that they stole, the silver and stuff they sold from Venezuela, Trump got that on deposit in a personal bank account in Dubai. And I guess he got all this money. Remember, he was selling Trump sneakers, Trump phones. Did anybody ever get delivery on one of those phones? Did they ever send out any of those phones? Anybody see one of them phones? Have you ever seen a Trump phone that he was charging, $1,000 for? Well, he made out like a bandit because that's what he is. So they say he's made for himself and his family at least $1.4 billion in the last year. Next image. Not bad for the first year on the job. Now, of course, everybody's heard about the riots in Iran, all over Iran, and every part of Iran exploded with violent eruptions of riots. And then the phone service was cut off by the government. The internet was cut off by the government. And then Starlink was taken down by the government in Iran. And all of a sudden the riots stopped. And they started investigating, and they found out that it was all related to internet stuff, internet propaganda being downloaded into Iran through Starlink. And they found out that they had pre-planted 40,000 Starlink antennas in every part of Iran and set up these terrorist cells. And so they were in communication with them from outside Iran, from Israel, from the CIA headquarters in Langley, Virginia. And they were issuing instructions to people inside Iran. And these were Mossad and CIA agents. These were terrorist groups from Iraq and from Afghanistan and other parts of the Middle East that had been trained by the CIA and Mossad. And so they were set up and supplied with these Starlink antennas so they could receive communications as to what to do to cause disruptions, cause riots. And they were paid bounties, so much for setting fire to a car. If you set fire to a house, you get so much. If you burn down a police station, you get so much. If you shoot somebody through the head, you get so much. If you kill a government official, if you kill a cop, they were all being paid through this internet setup. And so once the government got control of their information space and shut down Starlink, then that cut off the communication. And then they were able to trace these 40,000 Starlink antennas and find out who was operating them. And these were the foreign agents from Israel, from America, and other parts of the world that were behind the riots, trying to destabilize the country, to overthrow the government. They had plans to assassinate the Ayatollah Khamenei. But Iran got wise to them using Chinese and Russian technology. And they found out that the biggest threat to their country was Starlink, was Elon Musk. And other countries around the world are finding out the same lesson. If you let Starlink into your country, hey, you're vulnerable. They can attack you. It's an information war. Next image, please. And they already have people pre-planted in your society to cause trouble. Chilling. Iranian 2-year-old female kid killed with a shot in the head by U.S. Israeli-backed terrorists. Yeah, those people who were doing all of the killing in Iran were U.S. and CIA Mossad agents. Next image, please. And they were being paid. Horrific video shows the evidence on trained terrorist rioters who killed Iranian citizens, shooting them in the head as ISIS style. CIA Mossad used jihadists. Yeah, that's the hallmark of these jihadists. All of them were trained by the CIA or Mossad or MI6. Every major terrorist organization in the world is headquartered in London, England. They get their orders from London, England. So these people were being ordered to do what they were doing in Iran in an effort to overthrow the government, probably coming from London, England. That's where their headquarters are for all these jihadists who practice this Wahhabi British Islam. Next image, please. Wahhabi Islam was invented by the British to corrupt Islam, and it's done a good job of it. Donald Trump warns Iran, quote, "We'll wipe you off the face of the earth," in a drastic ultimatum. That's because he found out that the Iranians had an intercontinental ballistic missile. Yeah, the Iranians have now developed an intercontinental ballistic missile with a range of 10,000 kilometers and flies at hypersonic speeds. And they say, we can target Mar-a-Lago, Mr. Trump. You try to kill our leader, hey, we got Mar-a-Lago in the sights. We got Washington, D.C. in the sights with hypersonic intercontinental ballistic missiles, Mr. Trump. So that's why Trump issued orders that if anything happens to me, wipe Iran off the map, because he knows that he can be taken out by Iranian missiles. Now, of course, if they take out Mar-a-Lago, that's going to be, they have this kind of a Reshnik type missile. It would be more than Mar-a-Lago that gets destroyed. if they hit the White House, it'll be more than the White House that gets destroyed. Believe you me. Next image, please. So that's part of the reason why Donald Trump had to back down from his alleged readiness to attack Iran. They said, we're ready to attack you. Are you ready to be attacked, Mr. Trump? We won't go through this list. It's too busy. Next image. Now, this was an interesting, we talked about this last night on the Your Immunity Project, how they put vaccines like the COVID vaccine in chemtrails. People walking around thinking that they're not vaccinated, but yet they breathed in the chemtrail that had a vaccine in it, and they are vaccinated. They are producing the spike protein. And now they're doing the same thing down in Texas. They have a rabies vaccine that they're putting in the air. They're admitting it. They're putting a live virus vaccine in the air. It being airdropped over cities in Texas. I guess to make sure that the people in Texas don't get rabies. Next image, please. See, truth is stranger than fiction. 92% of Americans have cut back on spending as the standard of living in the U.S. crumbles. You've noticed that. I've noticed that. Everybody's noticed that except the super rich. I guess the upper 8%. But everybody else is cutting back on spending. I don't buy the things I used to buy. I can't afford it. That special cheese I used to get, hey, that's like $22 a pound now. I can't afford that. So it's getting down to beans and rice time, down to the basics. I can't afford all these expensive things. I got to bake my own bread now. You see, got to do something for myself. And so that's because the standard of living is crumbling. America is falling, the dollar is falling. They may not put it in the headlines. They don't have to put it in the headlines. You see your grocery bill, don't you? You see your light bill, don't you? Next image, and your quality of life isn't getting better because you're paying more. Next image, please. You're paying more and getting less. So now, does the fate of the world really hang in the balance of this man's mind? that is clearly unbalanced. I mean, this is a madman. I mean, I think the whole world is waking up to the fact that Donald J. Trump, the president of the United States, is a stark raving madman. He's a lunatic. He's a lunatic. He's more than just narcissistic. He's a madman. He's like the king of Babylon was in the Bible, driven mad, driven mad. And so should the fate of the world hang on the balance of this man's mind? Isn't there something called the 25th Amendment that says when somebody is incapacitated as president, that the cabinet is supposed to get together and declare him to be unfit for office, and then he can be legally replaced? See, that would be the nice way to do it. But a lot of people are saying that's not what's going to happen. They're saying that he's going to stay in office, he's going to cancel the next elections, and he's going to install his family. He's setting up what he calls his peace council or peace board, virtually is installing himself as the president of the world. He's a madman. He says he doesn't have to obey the law. His only morals he has is in his own mind. So what does he care about the Constitution? What does he care about the elections? What does he care about the United Nations? What does he care about anything? Next image, please. So should the balance or the destiny of the world hang on the balance of his mind? Now here's something that is of interest. If you've been saving silver, hey, you're shouting hallelujah, because silver is hitting record after record after record, the highest price in history just recently, $95 an ounce. Not so long ago, maybe 3 months ago, you could buy an ounce of silver for $20. Now you'll be lucky to get it for $95 if you can find it. Most of the vaults are empty. A lot of the coin shops are saying we don't have any inventory. Even the online coin shops. Most of the coins that they used to have are in abundance. They no longer have them. The U.S. Mint is out of silver. The British Mint is out of silver. It seems like all the silver has moved to China and Russia and India. Next image, please. And a lot of the people in America who bought silver on the stock market, they have a silver certificate, but they don't have any silver. And they're at a big loss right now. Gold to the rescue. Remember, they have confiscated, what, $300 billion? They call it frozen Russian assets under sanctions. Any money that the Russians had on deposit in European banks and English banks and American banks has been confiscated by those thieves. And they're actually spending Russia's money that Russia had on deposit, because the banking rules allow them to do that in one sense. I don't know if you know that. You know, when you open up a bank account and you put money in a bank account on deposit, you have just given that money to the bank. The bank owns that money. Now, they have an understanding that if you demand it back, they should give it back to you. But they don't have to. Because legally, as long as you put it on deposit with them, they own it. It's theirs. So that's what the European banks are saying to Russia. Hey, you put your money on deposit with us. Technically, reading the small print, we own this money. We can keep it if we want to, and that's what they're doing. But Russia outsmarted them, because Russia all the time was accumulating gold. And now the value of gold, like silver, has gotten so high, you know, that it obliterated the loss of the $300 billion, because they're so much to the good because they have so much gold. And guess who doesn't have gold? All they did was steal some paper money from Russia. They stole Russia's paper money. And Russia said, that's okay, because we got gold. Next image, please. How about you? When they steal your paper money, like they're already doing. And here's some good news for Cuba. One of the things that Trump said, he was going to cut off the oil that was going to Cuba from Venezuela, going to cut off all the food that was going into Cuba from Russia. Now, China's stepped up and just delivered two big container ships full of rice. I think they have an agreement they're going to be delivering 30,000 tons of rice to Cuba to keep the Cubans from starving. See, again, sanctions are an act of war. So America declared war against Cuba 70 years ago. Sanctions on top of sanctions, acts of war against a sovereign nation. And Cuba hasn't backed down in all these years. And now it's being aided by Russia and China. Next image, please. Now, in a letter to Norway's premier, Trump says he no longer feels bound to think purely of peace. That's because they didn't give him the Nobel Peace Prize. So he's mad. He wrote to the government. He said, you were supposed to give me the Nobel Peace Prize because I stopped 8 wars. And because you didn't do that, now I'm not going to be thinking about peace anymore, like he ever was. This is a madman. Don't try to figure him out. Just step back and understand. You're looking at lunacy. You're looking at insanity. Like the ancients used to say, those whom the gods would destroy, they first make mad. Well, you're looking at it. Next image, please. A madman. See, Arctic-trained airborne troops on standby as Greenland disputes escalates. Now, what does that headline make you think? See, they're talking about this airborne unit out of Alaska. They trained for Arctic warfare. And the headline makes you think that these Arctic-trained airborne troops are on standby to go to Greenland. But if you read down at the bottom there, no, they're not being deployed to Greenland. They're being deployed to Minneapolis. Is Minneapolis in the Arctic? You can't make this stuff up. They're sending the troops from Alaska to Minneapolis while they're talking about Greenland. Next image, please. So what are they going to do in Minneapolis? I guess round up some more Somalis. So the Epstein files deadline passed a month ago, but lawmakers show little interest to force Trump's Department of Justice to release the rest. And what they released, of course, was all redacted. It was all blacked out, 100%. You could read anything. And that's because I think it's true what Bill Clinton said a while back. Bill Clinton said 30% of Washington, D.C. are pedophiles. 30%. All of them are in the Epstein files. So it's not just that Trump doesn't want them released because he's all in the Epstein files. All the senators are in there. You think Lindsey Graham is not in the Epstein files? Come on now. You can look at some of them freaks and see, you know what they are. And they all up in the Epstein files. So none of them want the dirt to be released because all of them would be found guilty. All of them would be found disgusting to the American people. And so none of them want their dirty laundry to be released. Next image, please. It's bipartisan. You think the Democrats have more morality than the Republicans? Look at this. Israel advises the U.S. to hold fire on Iran as intelligence warns of backfire. Wait a minute, I thought Donald Trump was the commander-in-chief. This headline makes me think that somebody else might be giving the orders. I thought the president of the United States was the commander-in-chief. He gave the orders. But yet and still, looks like Bibi Netanyahu is telling the commander-in-chief what to do and what not to do. Next image, please. Now, here's what Trump was told to do. One of the first things he did when he got in office, he appointed an anti-Semitism czar. And of course, the Congress, they did what they were told to do too. And they passed an anti-Semitism legislation. It reminded me of what happened when the Bolsheviks took over Russia in the Bolshevik Revolution over 100 years ago. When the Bolsheviks killed the Tsar, took over the government, the first thing that they did was pass a law against anti-Semitism because all the Bolsheviks were Jewish. I guess history does repeat itself, or at least it rhymes. So it looks like in the future, people who are critical of genocide in Gaza, or the pillaging of the West Bank, or the looting, of the American treasury, or the financing of chemtrail spraying on American citizens. I mean, suppose all of that gets to be considered anti-Semitic, then you wouldn't be able to say anything about it. Next image, please. Now, this is all about cyber warfare, and it's a big problem, even though most people aren't talking about it. 4 in 5 small businesses had cyber scams in 2025, and almost half of the attacks were AI powered. In other words, artificial intelligence is robbing businesses big time. 4 out of 5, 80% of small businesses were robbed last year by artificial intelligence. Next image, please. That's part of the reasons why your prices are going up. See, now, artificial intelligence thieves, trained, in other words, artificial intelligence trained to steal, to perpetrate fraud against businesses. 37% of the companies lost more than $500,000 in 1 year. These are small businesses. They can't afford to lose $500,000 in scams, so they lay people off or they go out of business. A quarter lost up to $250,000, and another quarter they lost between $250,000 and $500,000. So this is a big, big thing. How many small businesses are there in America? I mean, I don't really know. I mean, thousands, tens of thousands of small businesses, and 80% of them were scammed for up to $500,000 last year. Well, who's running artificial intelligence that's scamming these businesses? That sounds like organized crime on the highest level imaginable. Next image, please. And if they can scam businesses, they can scam you and me. I know they've scammed me. I know Cash App scammed me for $4,000 one day. $4,000. Just like that. Boom, gone. Now here's a scam. It's not on the internet either. It's not artificial intelligence either. As a matter of fact, it's these Somalis again up there in Minneapolis. Maybe this is why Trump has to send the troops in. Now they say the Somalis that are in Minneapolis, they say that they're not mentally bright. They said they've done IQ tests on these people from Somalia, and they said the average IQ is about 71. So these are walking morons, sub-IQ individuals. But nonetheless, these so-called moronic Somalis, they're getting away with $1 million a day at the Minneapolis airport. They're picking up $1 million a day that the Somalis are picking up out of Minneapolis and shipping back home to Somalia. And they're supposed to be stupid. Next image, please. How could they get away with that? Federal authorities are investigating large cash movements through Minneapolis airport. $1 million a day. Next image, please. By Somalis, who are supposed to be morons. And here it is, the Transportation and Safety Administration flagged nearly $700 million in cash detected in passengers' luggage, leaving Minneapolis airport the last 2 years. I didn't know you could put cash money in your luggage like that and ship it off to Africa. Looks like it's pretty easy. They were at the $700 million they shipped to Africa. Hey, I don't know how to feel about that. I know it's wrong, but it feels so right. Next image, please. Go Somalia. I guess that's why Trump has to bomb them. I guess that's why Trump has to bomb them. Now, I'm not going to read this, but this is a letter from somebody named Ryan. And if you want to take a screenshot, go ahead. But he's actually having like a conversation with his bank. And all of the hoops they make you jump through if you want to deposit some money. Where did you get that money from? You want to take some money out. What are you going to do with that money? You got to fill out this form. Or we don't have that much cash in our branch. And so he goes through a whole scenario, highlighting the unfairness of the banking practices as they are in America. Next image, please. So take a screenshot if you want. U.S. evacuation of Ain al-Assad base strengthens Iraq's national sovereignty, Araghchi, Iran foreign minister says. Araghchi is Iran's foreign minister. And he's saying the fact that the U.S. is evacuating military bases, the largest military base in Iraq, strengthens Iraqi sovereignty. Now, this is just diplomatic speech to say that they're kicking America out of the Middle East. That's all that really means. In other words, just like Joe Biden had to get kicked out of Afghanistan ignominiously, Trump is quietly, if not ignominiously, being kicked out of Iraq. That's all that really means. So it's not only that Trump backed down and Israel backed down in their attack against Iran, but now this is Iran asserting its influence and power. Not only are you not allowed to attack us anymore, but now you have to get out of Iraq. So get. And they're getting. Next image, please. See, that's power. See, Iran is asserting its regional power, saying to the U.S., you can no longer stay in Iraq. Get out. And so here's the military general over the Iraqi army taking over the military base from America, saying that Iraq is now in charge of Iraq. And so, of course, this means that Iraq is now an ally of Iran, because Iran helped Iraq get its sovereignty back, kick America out of their bases. And so a lot of other countries are looking at the same thing. You mean Iran has so much power that they can kick America out? Yeah, they just kicked America out of Iraq. Why can't they kick America out of Saudi Arabia? Why can't they kick America out of the United Arab Emirates, where they have all these bases? Because Iran's proved in the 12-day war that America can't protect you. Next image, please. And that Israel will attack you even though you're an ally of America. Now, the consequences of genocide aren't just the death of those who are being murdered, but what about the murderers? See, the overwhelming majority of the Israeli population, they are in favor of genocide. They're not against Bibi Netanyahu's policy, they just don't like him. Matter of fact, they're in favor of somebody that's worse than him. They want to get him out so they can get Ben-Gvir in there, who's worse than Bibi Netanyahu, believe it or not. But there's consequences for being evil. There's consequences for committing murder. There's consequences for genocide. There's consequences for committing a Holocaust. And so a vast majority of Israeli citizens are suffering from mental illness. A lot of people would have said, well, you had to be crazy to do what they're doing. They are crazy. And if you do stuff like that, you're going to be even crazier than you were the first time. And of course, the mounting suicides that are taking place in the IDF are threatening manpower in Israel. So again, those who commit these evil deeds don't think that they sleep at night. No, they don't. They go crazy. They have nightmares over the evil things that they have done. Next image, please. I think I have a better version of this. Go to the next one. That's Winston Churchill. Was that the last? Okay, can you blow that up? Can you blow up the bottom part?
I can't because it's in the slideshow, but I can read it.
Okay, because I can't read it on my small screen.
The unforgivable sin of Hitler's Germany was to develop a new economic system by which the international bankers were deprived of their profits.
Okay. So in other words, the root of World War II was the fact that Germany had developed an economic system that was not dependent upon the international Jewish bankers. not dependent upon the Rothschilds. And because they could not derive their profits from Germany anymore, then they declared war against Germany. And that led to the Second World War that we all know about so well. Well, what do you think the seeds of the Third World War are? It's the same thing. Why do they hate Vladimir Putin in Russia? Because he kicked the international bankers, he kicked the Rothschild bankers out of Russia. And Russia took control of its own economy, prints its own money. That's why Russia is overflowing with gold and silver, because they own their own currency, they control their own economy, and the international bankers don't like that. We're not earning our profit from Russia. Why do you think they hate Iran? Because the Iranians, in their revolution, they threw the international bankers out. They threw the Rothschild bankers out. And they run their own economy. And they print their own money. Why do you think they hate North Korea? Because the North Koreans threw the international bankers out. Why do they hate Mao Zedong? Because Mao threw the international bankers out of China. That's why they hate Fidel Castro in Cuba. He threw the international bankers out. That's why they hate Hugo Chavez in Venezuela. He threw the international bankers out. And so the international bankers, who trace their ancestry back to the Knights Templar of the Middle Ages, the Crusader Knights. In the Middle Ages, these Knights Templar became the international bankers of today. And just like they were the Crusaders against Islam in the Middle Ages, against the indigenous people around the world, stealing and looting, engaging in piracy and crimes on the high seas, slavery, human trafficking, drugs peddling, every imaginable evil that these people could engage in, it's the same people today that are doing it, the international bankers. And in their secret societies, they call themselves knights. They are the Knight Crusaders. Donald Trump is the Knight Commander of the Knights of Malta. Pete Hegseth, the Chief of War, he is a Knight of the Knights of Malta, as are all of the defense chiefs. So these are the same people. So when the international bankers are thrown out of a country, then they foment war against that country so that they can get back into that country and plunder and steal. They want to plunder and destroy Russia again like they did the first time. They want to destroy China like they did during the 100 years of humiliation. They want to plunder and destroy Iran like they plundered and steal from Libya and all the other nations that they have destroyed recently. That's what they want to do with Venezuela, plunder and steal, because their economy has fallen. So this has been the 19th element. We covered a lot tonight. We delved deep into some of the historical roots of the present day situations. I hope you're prepared for the natural events that are also taking place. There's a huge winter storm that's about to overtake most of America, starting, I think, tomorrow. A deep plunge in temperature, ice and snow is going to be covering about 2/3 of the United States. And if it's more than a 1/4 inch of ice, it's going to take the power lines down. So be prepared if the power goes out where you are. How are you going to keep yourself warm? How are you going to light yourself? How are you going to cook your food? You see, how are you going to stay alive under these dire situations? So these and other issues confront us all. So let's stay together. Let's stay tuned. Let's communicate. Let's dialogue. So be with us on Sundays and Mondays with prayer and fasting. I'm your host on those days with prayer and fasting, along with Chief Malgana, where we have a spiritual lecture on Sunday. And then each Monday we have what we call Here After Questions and Answers. And so you can get your 2 cents in, at that time. So don't forget about us. Please push the share button. Show that you care. Share with friends and family. work associates. Let everybody know this information is vital for everybody. Everybody's life is at stake nowadays. If you're with us on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. I'm at about 1,000, well, over 1,000 subscribers now. Let's take it to 2,000. Let's take it to 2,000 by next week. So thank you for being with us. I'm your host, Dr. Alim. This has been the 19th Element, assisted by Sister Amira Bey. See you next week, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Minister of medicine, wake up the dead. So lost in temple, the uphill road. The book say what will make thee know it's the freest slave, body and mind. Give you my brothers, hunger is mine. To take care of widows and father the child. To humbly pray and not be proud. That's being proud of being called by his name. We pray for his coming, glad he came. Call for the messenger, call to the same. Called by the minister who called again. Tonight he the call is to live in sin. And feel the fire to lick you in. But your agreement with hell won't stand. Do you even know what Elijah was saying? Justify him, turn up the sound. You can believe it, listening now. I'm Minister God, teacher and friend. Let the world know we back again. The sun never set on the nation of gods. The moon, the stars, all that's ours. Align his mind and reclaim your power. Let that be the shout of the hour. Education, agriculture, science, technology, arts, and culture. Health, human services, justice, defense, information, spiritual development, trade and commerce. And of course, there's all types of different task forces coming together the right kind of way to execute a perfect old time play. A coach, a team, and a king to the lead. Two back in them up, we got three. I die daily in Christ is said. But James can't get that out of his head. So seeking assistance, patience, and prayer. A double overtime type. So justify and turn up the sound. You can believe it, listening now. I'm Minister God, teacher and friend. Let the world know we back again. The sun never set on the nation of gods. The moon, the stars, all that's ours. Align his mind and reclaim your power. Let that be the shout of the hour. He coming back to build his power when he said, set yourself in balance. Said Matthew's Islam mystery verse and said, I make perfect rulers of them. Now that sound like straight words to me. So I'm trying to be on some let's get free. And y'all thought this was just a management thing. But here's the reason Mike got 6 rings. Mike got rings, Mike got power. Clutch performer, shock of the hour. That's what it is, young Mike get locked. We play to win, they play to try. So we stay focused, build the nation. Negroes, devils, spectating the hate. So I pray my pen, work my brain. Cause I'm a double overtime type of player. Now justify him one last time. Rewind it back and change around. My minister God, teacher and friend. Let the world know we back again. The sun never set on the nation of gods. The moon, the stars, all my stars. Align with his mind and reclaim the power. Let that be the shock of the hour.
Real March. Assalamu alaikum.
Well, let come